All right, so here I'm just doing some joint flossing or voodoo flossing. One of my favorite things to do right before I warm up, especially because last night pulling with Marcio Barbosa's team, the Team Beast Mode over in New Jersey, definitely put a hurting on my arm. So want to get a little bit of joint flossing done. You know, it definitely helps me out a lot. So this is what I do. You know, I kind of just get it as tight as I can without going too tight. I don't use too thick of a band. Just kind of wrap it, overlapping by about 50%, and go all the way up my arm. And then I try to actually come back down a little bit. My elbow joint is pretty big, so I can't get as many wraps as most people can. But once I do, I just wrap it all the way up to the top, and you'll see me come back down to the bottom, and then I'll just hold it. And what you'll see me do when I actually start working that joint flossing, just in a second, is what I like to do is I like to flex it all the way at the top with my bicep, kind of even curl my wrist in a little bit, almost like I'm doing a wrist curl at the top, and really flex it. And then I try to extend my wrist out as far as possible. So I really try to like almost hyper extend that elbow. It's nice if you actually have somebody who can help you do this. They can actually kind of hyper extend your elbow for you just to get that extra range of motion. But I always like to start with this. It really helps get some blood flow to that area, and also kind of alleviate some of that pain and stiffness right before the beginning of it. So that's my joint flossing. Next thing I do, I definitely like to get my hands warmed up. I don't have very big hands. I definitely don't have very big fingers. I've got pretty decent sized palms, so I want to make sure I can get every bit of strength out of my hands during training. So I just grab I've got the whole set of the Iron Mind wrist extensors or forearm extensors, and just grab those. Try to hit it with both hands. Try to get it as far out into my fingers as possible. You'll see I'll do a couple and I'll readjust to make sure I'm really getting the maximum effort out of it. And all I'm doing is just trying to spread my hand open as far as I can and just hold it a little bit. And then I just let it come back in nice and slow. I do it for about 20, 25 reps, both hands. Everything I do for warm-ups, usually 3-4 sets at the most if it's just not feeling good yet or it's not really warmed up. Did about 3 of these for about 20, 25 reps each, and it felt really good. So that's what I usually do next to warm that hand up. Next thing I like to do, not only because it really shows off my cool cat shirts that I like to wear, but it also really helps out my rear delts and my shoulders and all around strength in my rear, the rear part of my upper back and traps, is these band pull aparts. I usually grab a light to medium band, and do about 3 to 5 sets of like 50 reps with these. They help a lot. They're awesome. They get a lot of blood flow and pump going. So yeah, they're great. Next thing I like to do is these banded wrist pronators, or this wrist pronation exercise. I really like these, especially the day after pulling. Just grab a medium band, really focusing on kind of that top roll type of movement. Really new into this, so this is something that I've really have felt has helped a ton, just because of how much it really kind of helps with recovery the day after pulling. So definitely something that I will continue to incorporate in my warm-ups and in heavier movements as an actual exercise during my workouts. Last thing I do is kind of like my first exercise. It is not really truly warming up, but it's kind of warming up my grip to actually, get it in there, is these Captains of Crush. The first one is actually just a level 1. I try to do it thumbless, try to work it where it's a position where my wrist isn't bent back. I'm kind of in a little bit of a cupping movement, and I'm just kind of holding it there. Kind of work on not allowing my fingers to get opened up and blown back open. I know it's not the best exercise in terms of grip strength or forearm strength for powerlifting or arm wrestling, but it's something that I definitely enjoy, and it's challenging. This is one thing I definitely do not have the same strength in my left hand as I do my right. You can see here that I struggle a little bit with my left hand to get it closed with the one. One thing I've definitely noticed, if I do it the day after I've pulled, my right usually is not too bad, but doing my left, if I try to really squeeze on that thing, you'll see here when I do the 1.5, bumped up to the 1.5, right closed pretty well. I didn't even show the attempt at the 1.5 because it just, any elbow tendonitis I had going on with that left, it just kind of really blew that up out of proportion. So definitely don't recommend doing if your elbow's sore at all, but I mean, yeah, they're great, and obviously they're tried and true and awesome for grip. So last thing I like to do is one of my favorite warm-ups is actually some banded shoulder stretches, since I'm going to be working shoulders today in the gym. Maybe a little bit of side pressure, stuff like that. These really warm up my shoulders, especially since I've had labrum tear repaired in both my shoulders before. Kind of just doing my right here, but I do both sides. I just start out doing some tricep extensions kind of overhead with the band, but also kind of pulling it forward a little bit to work on my shoulder. And then you'll see I switch, do a little bit of rotation with it. I like the band because it kind of keeps that constant tension, and you can move forward or backward to kind of adjust that tension, however tight your shoulder's feeling that day. And then my all-time favorite move with this band, once I finish the rotation, you'll see I'll take it and I just kind of come over top with it. It's my favorite stretch for my shoulder. It's not a ton of tension and it shouldn't feel painful, but I feel like this really gets that blood pumping in my shoulder and really loosens it up, especially on days when I'm feeling really tight like today. So that's the end of all my warm-ups. I'm going to go hit the gym and hopefully have an awesome workout session. You guys be good.